And hello, everyone. Hi, I'm Dr. Lou, your favorite mathematics guru, math whisperer, and math champion. Thank you for coming to another episode of Pie Before Dinner. Tonight, we're going to be talking about algebra, right, and all things about algebra. The episode is titled Breaking Algebra, and I'm actually excited about talking to you tonight. As usual, we're going to talk about some other things as well. This is community, so we know that we're living in a time where we're dealing with a lot of stuff, right? We're dealing with a lot of stuff in and around our communities, such as the COVID-19, such as the lockdown, and so it's lots of pressures, and we're having to navigate these pressures while we're at home as parents, as teachers, homeschoolers, as children. We can't even deny the impact that this is having on children. So, we're going to get started and we're going to start talking. I'm going to just open up the comment section now. If you're in the post, just drop a note and say hi. Even if you're seeing this as a replay, just drop a note, say hi, say hello, tell us where you're coming from. Some exciting things have happened, and I'm happy to kind of share those things with you today. One of the things I want to talk about, one of the things at least I want to share just to get some of the business out of the way, is that we've started a new group, a new Facebook group, Pie Before Dinner Seconds. And so you should see a link in the description of this particular episode. If not, I can just write it in the chat, a link to come to our after party, our after set, where we have seconds. We're going to have pie for dinner tonight. But sometimes we want to raid the fridge for seconds. Sometimes we want to build community outside of the show. And we're going to just transition over to the Facebook group after this. And so this is being broadcast in several locations, the Facebook group, YouTube Live, as well as my Facebook profile and a page that I have as well. And so I'm just happy to welcome folks that are coming in from those different venues and venue points. I love this about this time of this renaissance that we're in. I know it's tough times. It sounds weird to say because we're talking about an epidemic. We're talking about a kind of epidemic we've never seen in our lifetime, right? For a lot of us, it stripped away some rights, some privileges. It stripped away a lot of our security in a nutshell. But there's also a renaissance going on. I'm seeing more Insta Live posts Insta Live sessions by artists. And that's really, really exciting. I'm really excited by that, to be quite honest with you. How many of you saw the battle, Babyface and Teddy Riley? And my question for you is: are you a Teddy Riley or are you a Babyface when it comes to math? Are you Teddy Riley or are you Babyface? And so that was so funny. I had so much fun watching Teddy Riley and that whole setup, and it was just so much, right? It was a TV in the back. It was a hype man. I was actually going to bring on a hype man for the show this evening, just to kind of hype us up and get myself going with the math in the back, the hype man. But after Teddy Riley's experience, I said, nah, just keep it cool, like Babyface, and maybe put the shades on like Babyface and just kind of chill out. Now you'll notice that for some of the Facebook users, I'm using something called StreamYard. StreamYard is a very good broadcasting studio. It's online. And it allows me to do some things like share screens, as I'll do later. But if you want me to see your name, you're going to have to give StreamYard some permission to see some of the comments. I don't know. I think I deleted it, but it should be there. Nevertheless, we'll just, as you comment, you might have to just put your name. All right, so Babyface and Teddy Riley. And so I was just so excited because I realized that there's so many people joining this renaissance of expression through Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all sorts of things that people haven't focused a lot on the technical part of, hey, let's get this right, a polished production, like CBS or NBC or Hulu. And I think, you know what? It's jokes aside, that's okay, right? That's okay, because we're expressing themselves. And even myself, I've messed up. I mean, you should have seen my first broadcast and with problems with the audio and all sorts of stuff, right? That was tough. And so I had to learn as I went on. But I realized that the message is so critical and so important, but your voice is so important. And so you should stop worrying about so much about optics. I mean, optics are so critical, but don't let that stop you from getting your voice together and expressing yourself. So hats off to all of the people who are on Instagram, who are on Facebook Live, and who are presenting themselves. I love it. Keep going. Don't let anyone tell you that you shouldn't be expressing yourself, because this is a time where we have to express ourselves and encourage each other, and not just wait for television to do that for us, right? And so this episode is important. It falls in that category because it's called Breaking Algebra. And just like the television show Breaking Bad, Breaking Bad is a Southwestern slang expression, and it means to raise hell or to challenge authority, right? And in that show, he was really raising hell and challenging authority, dealing dope and those kinds of things. But this isn't that kind of Breaking Bad. This is a dealing show, but we're dealing hope. We're dealing hope in mathematics, hope in education, and hope in life, as we care for each other and push each other to do better and be better. So this is not Breaking Bad in that sense, but it is breaking algebra. And what better area to emphasize breaking things than algebra? Algebra is probably the number one gatekeeper in mathematics. I mean, let me think about it. And as parents and teachers, I want you to navigate some big critical gates. Math is a big pipeline, and there are some critical junctures, critical points that when our children fall, it's very difficult for them to get up. And it's also very difficult for us to challenge and pass the points. For example, in third grade and fourth grade, that's primary 2 and 3, primary 4, 5, and 6, upper elementary. In the upper elementary grades, period, no matter where you are around the world, the curriculum shifts. And there's a greater emphasis on not just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but parts of numbers, right? Like what's a half and what's a percentage and a decimal and fractions. Fractions become this big gatekeeper of upper elementary. So parents, if you're in grades 3 to 5, your big emphasis on support should be ensuring that your children are getting high quality experiences in and around parts of numbers, fractions, that is, fractions and those kinds of fraction sense, as I call it. But when we get to grades 6 through 8, right, the curriculum shifts again, because there's a rush to prepare students to be masterful in some way, shape, and form with arithmetic, right? The operations with fraction, multiplication, division, of decimals, and dealing with ratios and proportions, and preparing them for this one course of not a physical course, but this emphasis of algebra. And algebra is such a critical subject in mathematics, and it's a gatekeeper. And you can take it 7th and 8th grade and 9th grade, typically traditionally placed at the 9th grade level, or just after middle school, for those of you who have different systems. But it's a beast, isn't it? It's a beast. And anyone who's taken algebra understands that that's sometimes where people drop off, right? And think about it. Think about just reflect and think about your algebra experience for a second. You've probably taken algebra in what grade did you take algebra in? In fact, I'll leave that to the comments. What grade did you take algebra in? And if you're just coming on, thank you very much. Nice to see you, Jaja. You're joining me. You're here, Jaja. I know you just finished the meeting, but thanks for coming. My question then is, when did you take algebra? And just tell me what it was like. Put it in the comments. If you are here in the comments, just say hello, please. It's our way to greet each other and say hello. So just drop a comment in the comment section and just say hello. Say hello and say where you're from. Appreciate I appreciate that. So thinking about your own experience in algebra, you probably took algebra, what, in 9th grade, 10th grade, right? And did you take it in college? Yeah. You know, did you find that you took algebra for like 4 or 5 years? And that between 9th grade and the second year in college, the math just did not change. It was just over and over again, of course, of algebra. And so it goes to show you how deeply embedded this experience of taking algebra is. In fact, when you think about mathematics and you ask people about mathematics, they default to algebra. They default to thinking about x's and y's, and it's almost as if algebra has become this synonym for math, right? And so we're going to break it. We're going to break that mold tonight and break it. Listen, I'm not seeing comments, so just let me know. Just put a thumbs up or down. I'm using StreamYard, so I'm just curious as to how this particular platform works. So if you can, just put a comment, just say thumb up, thumb down. Hopefully it won't be a thumb down. And in the chat, okay? Well, thanks for coming on board. Today we're going to talk about algebra. I'm going to talk to you about some big ideas. I want to talk to you about how algebra is organized in both the high school and the middle school, high school, and well, let me just stop there. How algebra is organized in the world of mathematics, what it means to focus on algebra and teach in and through algebra. I'm going to try to debunk some myths as we go along, and based on audience participation, because this only works with audience participation, I want to do some problems with you as an audience. But you got to let me know you're here. You got to let me know you're here. You got to pop in. You got to do some comments, because that's typically how we work. This is a safe group. We don't critique you. We're not trying to critique you. But we are here to really push you to think differently about mathematics. All right. And so breaking algebra it is. What if I said that any parent could teach algebra? Any teacher could teach algebra. In fact, what if I said that the biggest principle in algebra you could teach in 2 minutes or less? Well, today we're going to talk about that. Today we're going to talk about what it means to teach algebra in 2 minutes or less, the biggest principles of algebra in 2 minutes or less. I'm actually going to give you some hints on how to do that as well. But the whole thinking behind this is I'm just going to write a note to you guys. I know that I'm probably 10 seconds ahead, right? So I do see my post coming up. Just wondering if your post can come up as well. If you are in the chat, I see you peeking. Say hello. And so we're going to talk about what it means to teach some of the biggest principles in algebra. And yeah, and we're going to try to do it in 2 minutes. In fact, I left my prop. I had a prop for today, and I left my prop. And so probably when we're slipping out doing a prop, when we're doing a problem together, I'll slip out and get the prop and bring it back, okay? All right, so tell me, guys, tell me about your experiences. What were your experiences in algebra like? What were your experiences in algebra like? Let me type the question here. Okay, so what were your experiences in algebra like? Okay, so I'll just put that question up and let that question resonate with you. What were your experiences in algebra like? And I'm going to show it on the screen. You should see it on the screen here. But what were your experiences in algebra like? All right, so let me take a look and see if I have any chatters in the house. Okay. All right. What were your experiences in algebra like? All right, so I remember mine. Gosh, I remember mine. I took Algebra 1. In fact, I didn't. I never knew what algebra was. I remember going to school when I was in 7th grade, and I had gone to a private school. We had some issues, had to go to private school. That's another story, but we had some issues and had to go to private school. And I remember talking to one of my friends one time, and they were trying to explain to me. Hey, they were bragging to me. Hey, what's 1x and 1x? And I said, well, hey, it sounds like 2x. But I had never taken algebra before, right? And I didn't know what it was. And, they were just recounting what they had learned and what they had been discussing over the course of the week in their own classrooms. And I now know they were discussing, just adding like terms in algebra at the time. But I didn't know what it was because at my school, we hadn't. In 7th grade, we weren't doing algebra. We were actually doing just I guess the arithmetic I had talked about, the advanced arithmetic that I talked about, and so we hadn't been doing the algebra, and so I felt like I was put on the spot, but I just didn't know. And that goes back to the point we were making last week and the week before about giftedness. Giftedness is not about mathematical ability. Giftedness is largely about people's experiences, right? And we tend to judge people's. We tend to, judge giftedness. We tend to judge giftedness by looking at people's experiences, and we call it ability. But there's just no mathematical. I'm just recapping. There's no mathematical test that can actually predict giftedness. I'm going to ask a favor of you guys. If you are in the currently watching, can you just go ahead and share this with on your profile? Either share this on your profile, or can you, better yet, just start a watching party? I know that a lot of people tend to watch these episodes after the fact, and so if you can go ahead and just watch this. I would really, really be happy if you could just go ahead and just start a watching party of your own. I'd be really grateful. Oh, okay. So what happens is that either share this on your profile, or can you, better yet? Okay. So what happens? It seems like I cannot see the comments in the program that I was using. Sorry, guys. So it's been a lot of comments. Hi, Ellen, Nina. Thanks. Who cares about algebra? You're looking handsome, Miss. Nina, that's I'm working. Thanks, that's Nina Webb. Thanks, Nina. Shelly Hylu from Connecticut. Shelly took algebra in 8th grade or 9th grade, but she doesn't remember, right? Well, you don't remember which year, right? You remember what it was like. Terry, you're dropping in from Baltimore. Thueba says, algebra was my favorite math to learn. It was felt like puzzles. That's interesting. Thueba, tell us some more about that. Tell us some more about what you mean about it was like a puzzle. That sounds interesting. Karen's joined. Hey, Karen, how are you? Karen's from Atlanta. So Terry says her experiences were based on a teacher. If the teacher showed interest in the topic, belief in students' ability, it was a memorable class. I really enjoyed it. It was like figuring out a mystery. So Thueba says it was like a puzzle. Terry says it was like a mystery. Unfortunately, we had a teacher that was mean. It's interesting that these experiences in math can't be separated from the reality of who the teacher was. There's a lot to be said about relationships and how relationships dictate how people engage with difficult concepts or challenging areas of mathematics. We don't talk enough about that in math, and I've been challenging my colleagues and myself to do that more, right? To teach more from the heart, right? To think about the heart of mathematics and how mathematics is connected to how human beings experience the world. We're going to talk about that slightly later when we unpack algebra, but that's I digress. If it wasn't a textbook, she couldn't answer the question. Unfortunately, that's a reality, right? That's a reality that some teachers, parents, we just don't know the content. Yeah. Now, Pay Busy, how are you? Karen is like, math is like speaking Arabic for me. It was always challenging until college, where I had a great professor. You know what? That's a good question. I don't know if I've asked this before, but I'm going to ask it again. Tell me when. It seems like I can't. Okay, I got you. Tell me when was the first time that you. Okay. All right. All right. Tell me when was the first time you experienced a great mathematics teacher. I'm going to put a link in the chat, guys. I hope you can hear me. I'm going to put a link into the chat, and it's telling me that if you go to this link, I can be able to see your names, or if you your names as you chat. I can see it when I look into Facebook, but I can't see it when I can't see it as I'm looking on my StreamYard screen. No, this is not a Teddy Riley. This is the Babyface of productions. Okay, I'm just asking if you can go to. How did he do it? How did Teddy do it? Respect. Can you check your mic? It might be your mic, guys. Can you check your mic? When you enter, it might be your mic. Yeah, this is not a Teddy Riley production, guys. This is pure Babyface business dot. Pure Babyface business dot. All right, so if you check it, perhaps I can see it. I'm streaming to multiple platforms, but apparently only some of them can show, and that's okay. Only some of them can show. Some of them can show my actual comments, and so that's okay. Doesn't make a difference. We are good to go. So I've asked you to talk about your experiences in algebra. What were they like? And you're telling me about them, because what we want to do in this episode. Excuse me for 1 second. What we want to do in this episode. What we want to do in this episode is to demystify algebra. All right. So are you ready? Okay. So let me give you a problem. Let me just throw something up there. Let's stop talking. Let's just throw a problem up and see what you can do. Since you say you're ready for algebra, let's talk about it. Right. Let me give you something to do. All right. And tell me what you think about it. Okay. So I'm going to give you something to do. You tell me what you think about it. All right, so let me do this one. I'm just going to give you a problem. I'm going to put it on the board. Class, I'm going to put it on the board, and I'm going to ask you to think about it, and I'm going to ask you to do it. All right, here we go. I'm going to give you this problem. This looks like a good one. Whew. I can't wait. I'm getting excited. Okay, here we go. So when you see this problem on the board, class, you are to do it. All right. Oops. Okay. Wrong problem. All right. So let me give you the right problem. Okay. Here we go. This is the one. All right. So you should see a problem on your screen. I'm just going to make it a little bigger. Okay. So you should see a problem on your screen, and I'm going to ask you to do it. I see we've got a lot of church folk in here. Hey, Naya, how are you? Nicole, how you doing? We've got some church folk in here, guys. Some prayer warriors. So this problem they should like. So this problem they should really like. So there's a problem that you should see on your screen. It says at let me put my glasses back on. The school gospel choir is selling T-shirts to raise funds, right? It's going to cost $350 for advertising and printing. Each T-shirt, like this, is going to be sold for $15, but cost me $5 to make, right? A sponsor's going to pay $200 if they can get their logo on the shirt, right? Like my Adidas logo, if you can see that. Does this make good sense? Does this make good business sense? Tell me what you think, and go. Karen, are you trying to break? I know this is breaking algebra. Are you trying to break my broadcast? Karen says B. The answer is B. No. Okay, so here's a problem on the screen, guys. Take a look at it, and I'm gonna give you a few seconds to do it. And I know if some of you are watching this via replay and you're not watching it live, you can still do this. This one is for you as well. Okay? And so, does this make good business sense? Can they profit? Interesting. Does this make good business sense, and can they profit? So Terry asks, how many shirts are they printing? Well, you think about that, Terry. You tell me. You think about that. I didn't put that in there. How many shirts do they think they can sell? What do you think? I like giving these trick problems. As always, as I'm giving you these trick problems, focus on what I'm doing too. I'm doing something to you as I'm asking you to do to the problem. I'm doing something to you. So focus on the problem, but also think about what is he doing? And how is he doing it, and why? Okay. All right, so Terry says, how many shirts are they printing? Hey, Dana Lee, welcome, welcome. So Terry says, how many shirts are they printing? How many shirts do they think they can sell? Okay, so if you've just joined the broadcast, guys, we've been talking about breaking algebra and how to break algebra, how to demystify algebra so that everybody gets a crack at it. Everybody gets it. We're gonna crack the code. We're gonna talk about some things. You know, one thing I didn't say, and I apologize. My mathematicians who are this is a unique broadcast because we actually have mathematicians, professional mathematicians on the broadcast. And so it's nice to see you. I appreciate you guys for supporting. Hi, Shelly. Hi, Emily from Dallas, Texas. Thank you for supporting as well. Okay, so on the what's on deck, I know it's a little silent, but what's on deck if there's a problem? I call it the gospel choir problem. They're selling t-shirts, guys. They cost some money. It costs $350 to print and advertise, right? Each t-shirt's going to be sold for $15, but costs $5 to make. But a sponsor will pay $200 if their logo can go on each shirt. Does this make good sense? Does this make good business sense? Emily says, side note, I am not a mathematician. Well, you know, to be a math person, it just requires you to have a pulse. Everybody is a math person. Hey, Tamisha, everybody's a math person. All right, so tell me what you're thinking, guys. Does this make good business sense? Write it in a chat and let me know your thinking. Tell me what you're thinking. Okay, and as you're telling me what you're thinking, before I go on, I'm just going to pause and reflect on where we are so far. and why I'm treating you in this particular way with regards to the work. All right? Don't be shy. Also, Shelly says, if I know I can sell over 15 shirts. What do you mean by that, Shelly? Thueba says, depends on how many shirts sold. Okay, Thueba, it does depend maybe. Well, tell me, push it, man, push it. Push this problem for me. Push it. Give me some scenarios. Tell me, I'm coming to you with an idea, right? I want to sell some shirts. I don't know everything, but I'm coming to you with an idea. Convince me, push me to go for it or not. I'll tell you a quick story. So I was opening up a after-school program in Bermuda, maybe in 2009, and it was after school, and it was a math science program. It was one of our first ones, actually. It was a STEM program. It's called Inspire, and I remember my buddy, Barkley. He has his MBA from Harvard, and I asked him, can he look at my business plan? And I spent all day typing up this elaborate business plan, and I had this conversation with him, and he just asked me 2 questions. And I said, man, yo, give me advice. I just created this elaborate business plan. And he said, hey, I just did. He had, in 2 quick questions, had given me all the advice that I needed by just asking me 2 quick questions and deconstructed my entire business plan. And so this is relative, right? So it's a problem. It's a business plan, and I'm asking you to push it. Terry, it depends on how much profit they wish to make, right? In fact, let me pin this comment for a second. Pin comments, that sounds like a good thing to do. All right, so it depends on how much profit they want to make. Okay, cool. So if they can sell like 16 shirts, so Terry says if they sell 16 shirts or more, there's profit to be made. That doesn't factor in people's time, gas, money, and shipping. Terry, explain what you mean by doesn't factor in time, money, gas, and shipping. As an Arab, I would ask a sponsor to pay $350. I like how you're thinking, Ellen. I like how you're thinking. I like how you all have engaged in this space. Ellen, you're changing the parameters of the problem. Okay. All right, cool. So this math problem prompts you to go and do some other things. Cool, I like that. Terry says again, oh, sorry, that's a pinned comment, Terry. Hi, Julie, thanks for joining. They start in the red by $150. How did you get that, Terry? So they would have to sell at least 15 shirts just to break even. Can we see that? How did they start in the red, $150? Explain that to me. Okay. Yeah. So just write in the chat. This is the part of the broadcast where we're just focused on the audience and audience is participating. And so if you're looking at me, look in the chat and you'll see people. I'm just biting my nails here. People will be in the chat working this problem out. I really appreciate that because it shows me that we have a group of people who are committed to, are really committed to engaging in this particular space. Trust me, people come on the program afterwards and they send me messages and they put it in our group and they continue to post problems and post comments. And so this is awesome. It's a gift that keeps giving. That's okay, Julie. Julie says she just finished schoolwork. We understand these are tough times where we're working all hours. And so yeah, so I put this problem on board. I'm just gonna reduce it. Well, that's a bit too small. And so yeah, so this problem, believe it or not, is algebra, right? But let me ask you a question: Does it feel like algebra? Does it feel like an algebra problem? Does it feel like the algebra? Does it feel like the algebra that you studied, that you engaged in? Is this the algebra that your child is doing right now? That's so. I'm asking. I'm extending the question. Is this? Does it feel like the algebra that you're doing? And I'm also asking the question. I'll just put that on the table. Does it feel like the algebra that you are doing, like the algebra you studied? And I'm also asking, is this the algebra that your child is doing, your friend, your neighbor, or the young people that you see that you're watching? Is this the work that they're doing as well? I'll go to the chat and just see what kind of updates we have. Okay. Julie said it sure doesn't look like it. Hey Kimberly, hey Rebecca. Yeah, and so Terry's explaining that because the advertising cost is $250 and the sponsor gives $200, we know that there's before we even start, there's a shortfall, right? And that brings out a dilemma, and that's why Ellen said that. Look, I'm going back to the sponsor and saying this can't work right off the bat unless you give me $350. But then I have to take into account time and space and energy. So it can work, but I'll have to sell some shirts. And so I'll have to do some work, which sounds like. Emily, I like that. Emily says, feels good. Yes, because we are thinking through how many shirts to be sold to make a profit. And it's worth taking, possibly necessary to take the sponsorship. Hey, listen, when you think about how much it costs to make the shirt, the $5, and you think about how much you can sell it for, that's an indicator too, right? That's a key space for us, right? What was the biggest thing in this problem in determining how many shirts you sold? So I see you got 15, and some people that said 16. But what are the possibilities? What are the possibilities? What's driving up? What's changing in this problem that's leading you to change the number of shirts? I guess the question I'm asking, what's the key factor here in determining how the profit is going to change? Yeah, that's the question I want to ask. Julie says, no, this is not how my students are seeing it. Yeah. I want to unpin your comment, but I don't know how. Yeah, here we go. All right, so before we go more into this problem and some other problems, I want to just take you back to how I am deliberately trying to engage you as an audience, and how I think you ought to push for your young people to be engaged in and around algebra. And we're not doing enough advocating for these kinds of experiences. And I believe our young people, a lot of times, are being shortchanged by the traditional algebra experience. So let me go back and just kind of put a quick recap from last week. Now, last week I told you that the way in which we engage problems, if you just look below, the way in which we engage young people, one of the best ways we can do this in mathematics is that the best ways we can do this in mathematics is, the first thing is these 4 L's. I talked about these 4 L's, to launch, to let go, and to learn, and to link it all together. So in just what I've done so far with you, where do you see me in those 4 L's, right? Where do you see me? And I know this was last week, but it's so critical. These 4 L's, I need to put them on my website, because I want parents to see this part, because when I see young people learning algebra, I don't see that. I don't see this. When I see, oops, let me go opposite direction. When I see young people learning algebra, I do not see that. Particularly when I look at parents and adults and in-home situations. The task, is it a good task? Was this task good? Was it a worthy task to do? And there's some criteria I have for worthy task. Worthy task, the answer should not be obvious, right? To be a worthy task, it should be mathematically rich. But Also, to have a worthy task, it should engage the young person in communication and reflection. So it should require me to reflect, to think, and it should require me to communicate. Let's go back to, remember Emily, your first, was it Emily or was it Ellen? Ellen's first thought was to go back and negotiate with the sponsor, right? And so good mathematics problems, real good mathematics problems, the stuff that mathematicians like to grapple with, should require you to think deeply and communicate. And also take some intellectual risk. And so the intellectual risk, Terry, remember when you asked me, well, it didn't have this, it didn't tell us how much shirts we would sell. And that was done purposely. So to force the person in the problem to stretch it, to think. All math problems have assumptions. They carry with them these assumptions. And sometimes mathematicians argue about assumptions, and they tweak and they make other assumptions. And Terry, you actually added some more assumptions that we haven't accounted for. That's a good statement to make, because mathematics is a way of modeling the world. Remember, I've challenged you to change your definition of math. Everything you know about math has been handed down to you, right? It's been taught to you either through some school experience or something you've read. I am challenging you and have challenged you to change your definition of math. So don't think math is just this information that you get that's way out there and it's coming to your brain. Think of math as a dynamic way of understanding my world. And if it is, then there's no way that one problem can map out the entire world. There's just too many things that change in the world. Like time, we haven't accounted for time and energy and frustration factor. Because, dealing with some people, some folk, get overly frustrated with this kind of endeavor in the first place. And so that's important. Launch a good task. The second thing, the biggest thing you can do in teaching algebra or geometry, any of these things, is to let go. Let go and let you do it. Right? Let go and let you do it. Introduce a kind of struggle. If there's no cognitive struggle in this, then question the problem. And when your young people are not struggling, they are telling you it's too easy. Don't make the leap to believe that your young person is gifted because the stuff's too easy. All our young people are gifted, but do make the assumption that maybe they're not being challenged well. So challenge these packets and these worksheets. Challenge them. All right. So thanks. We got some new folks on. Thanks. One thing I like about these broadcasts is how people jump on and jump off, and that's okay. I know you're doing so much stuff. You can always come back, and you can always look in the comments. Julie says, "I'll just say that even this question makes my pressure go up." Sorry, Julie. I didn't mean to make your pressure go up. I was not fully understanding algebra when I was taught. Yeah. You notice the problem takes you back to a memory, and it's so important. Yeah. So I made a mistake, and what I should have done is, and what I typically would do in these situations is, there's a cell job that I have to do in coaxing you into the problem that I would have done in launching the problem. Because of some of the memories and experiences that we have to do more of that. And so I would have said, if you had a gospel choir, what would you raise funds for, Julie? What would be a pet project? And okay, and how much money would you want to raise? And I would go there and I would kind of launch the problem like that. How would you want an algebra student to answer this problem? All right, so I am purposely talking this through verbally, Emily, because I want an algebra student to engage me in a discussion of this problem's key concepts verbally. You'll note specifically what I did not do. I did not give you an equation. Now, let me ask you a question. Because I want to get to that. So Emily, let me pin your comment, Emily. I'm going to pin it because I want to get back to it. So, but how do you balance the level of challenge without causing much frustration? Yeah. So as I let go and let you do, and as I'm monitoring the comments with the teacher, as I'm walking around and looking and asking probing questions, at home as a parent, as I'm learning and looking. So when you let go, that's your time to learn, not to tell, but to learn. And so I'm learning where you're struggling and what kinds of questions you're having. In fact, one of the reasons I'm pinning Emily's comment is because Emily's asking me something that I really want to get to with the class. And so I'm using this opportunity to learn and to let go. So if you notice on the screen here, if you look on the screen, if you look on the screen here, if you look on the screen here, I'm at the learn as they do about how they think. And now I'm going to try to link it all together. But I'm also talking to adults, and so I'm trying to engage you as math doers, students, but also as math teachers, adults. And so I kind of have to do a shift of both. And so I'm going to try my best to kind of do that so as best I can. So let me pay some bills by sharing my screen and going to this particular screen. I want to share with you, let me stop that and let me share my screen. I want to share with you what algebra, if you go to the Common Core and you look at algebra, let me stop that, that's another problem. I want to share with you, when you look at Common Core, there we go, let's try that. Yes. If you went to the Common Core website, there are 4 big ideas of algebra, and I want to share this with you. I'm getting back to you, Emily. I haven't forgotten that particular question, that particular challenge for us, and why I've stopped. I'm not giving you the full sale thing because I really have to kind of treat you as both student and as teachers. So when we think about algebra, there are 4 big ideas, right, that should be a part of every algebra experience. Patterns. Algebra, in fact, algebra has been said to be the study of patterns, right? I mean, we're literally studying the pattern. In fact, what's the pattern in this particular problem? Is there a pattern that you see? If I were to ask you, what's the profit when I sell 20 shirts? All right, let's put that question in the chat, in the comments. What's the profit when I have 20 shirts? About 30 shirts? About 53 shirts. I'll just put the numbers out there. What's the profit? If I were to ask you, what's that profit? Okay. How would you answer that? You know, how would you answer the question, what's the profit? You know, if there are 20 shirts, 30 shirts, or 53 shirts. And is there a pattern to this? And so as I'm asking you that, I am hitting what the Common Core says, what math educators, what the math community says are one of the big ideas of algebra. The second thing that algebra has to be about is symbol sense, making sense of symbols. The third thing what algebra has to be about is modeling. Modeling is when you are giving a real life situation, like what I've given here, and attempt to make sense of it and model it with the mathematics. And then the fourth thing that algebra has to be about, because it is the subject of change, algebra is all about patterns and the change of quantities, how quantities change. And so you see how this problem hits these big ideas. It hits 3 of the 4 big ideas. There's one I specifically did not emphasize. What is that? Here's the math quiz. There's one of these particular ideas that I deliberately did not mention in the problem that I've given you, and I actually steered myself away from it a little. What was that? Okay, now I'll go back to the comments. Hey, Frank. Frank is just joined us from, where are you, Frank, in South Carolina? Welcome, man. Tell everyone I said hi. Yeah, Thueva, your question, how do you balance the level of challenge without causing so much frustration? Now, I did say that there was 4 things you do. You launch the problem. In the launch is where you grab their attention. You have to really work hard in the launch to grab their attention. And in the letting go, you have to find the right questions to probe versus tell. So one of the things they struggle, I might ask questions like, tell me more. Why did you write that? Tell me more. And so it's questions that get them to release. But, and I was sharing this on one of my social media accounts, you want them to grapple. But when you step in that second stage, it's not to tell, it's to keep them grappling, but in a way in which they can grapple towards resolving their ideas. Even as they resolve their ideas, they still might not be right. Notice, I'm not concerned about the answer to this problem per se. I mean, if this was a math lesson, if I could finish it, yes. But I'm really working you through your thinking, your algebraic thinking at that. And so let me just get into more comments. Symbols, right. You're correct. And I see Terry, look, Natalie, if you look above your comment, you see Terry. Terry's invoking some symbols, right? 10 times 53 minus 100. Although she's talking about the order of operations, right? So, but you can figure this out, right? So if I'm selling 53 shirts, 10, and I might actually where the 10 comes from, but the 10 is an aggregate of the cost and the sale price, right? So 10 times 53, and then I minus I think you mean the 150, right? Not the 100, because you said 150 earlier. See, now as a teacher, I saw you do the 150, so I can challenge you on that. So now notice that I'm moving to, if I'm teaching this to my student, now I wanted to link it all together. I've purposely left out the symbols, the symbol sense. And let's face it, most of you have done algebra, have been too overly focused on symbols. Okay, so I'm gonna put this in the chat. This is gonna be one of my big takes. In fact, I'm gonna big take, and this should get you mad. Your algebra experience was too focused on symbol sense. In fact, I'm going to tell you that not only was your algebra experience too focused on symbol sense, it's primarily what drove you away from doing mathematics and realizing the gift that you have for mathematics at this particular venture, at that particular venture in your life. So notice we've gone from, but now we'll come into symbol sense. And so to do that, I'm still talking. To do that, what I would say is I use other questions. So when I'm bringing the class together, when I'm bringing my students together, or just my one person together, I'm now linking it together. I'm in a phase of more questions. It might be like, what is the pattern? In fact, that's not even a nice way to say it. I might say something like this. Do you notice a pattern, right? Different. So I'm getting past frustration because I'm asking better questions, right? I might say, is there, I'm spelling there wrong, a rule for this pattern? And how might you write it? Pattern, and how would you write it? So parents, teachers, if you'll notice that I am doing a whole lot more question asking. If you are getting confused with my idea of teaching, and if you think my idea of teaching is all about questions, then you are really getting what I am promoting and pushing around mathematics and breaking algebra. That you ask questions and questions and more questions. And the questions themselves they drive the learning, they drive the conceptual knowledge. So is there a rule? Now let's go back to Terry's rule. Terry, if you look at your comment, you see how you wrote that rule? That rule was nice, but it wasn't elegant. It wasn't, that's a math word. It wasn't exquisite it wasn't sophisticated in its symbol sense, right? And that's okay. So even as we're approaching symbols, I start with your methodology and to start the way you've done it, and then I might write something like this. I might help you to see that the pattern is 10 times something, right? And subtract. Someone might write it like this: subtract 150, right? And push you towards, well, what's this something, right? Let's substitute. Let's use a letter for the something. Let's just put the something is just a placeholder. So you'll notice that we're having a discussion in class that this something is a placeholder, and the something is simply what we call a variable, right? Times, so we say 10n subtract 150 equal profit, right? So if I wanted to write a general equation, at some point in my teaching, I get to that. But I can sort through all of the other stuff by taking my young people through these other models. And so I've done purposely something else that I want to share with you in the time that we have left. I want to share with you because I think this is really, really critical. I've presented to you, I want to share with you Connect 4, right? Connect 4. And I'm going to put that on the screen here. What is Connect 4? This is something you probably have never heard before around the teaching of algebra. When we look at math concepts, what happens is that the brain has to make these connections between concepts and ideas. The brain takes ideas that you know, and it's always formatting and reformatting and establishing new connections and strengthening connections. In fact, we call it this idea of constructivism, is that people construct ideas for themselves and are constantly strengthening these ideas as they're faced with new problem situations. That's why we like problem solving, because that's the way the brain is forced to construct new pathways, new ideas, by looking back to its old pathways. And so it does so by looking through multiple representations of stuff. And in math, I want to share with you what we call the big four representations, right? The big four. And these are so big, I kind of want to write them each as its separate thing. So the first representation is, I'm going to say something that you should have been told more often. The first representation is words, right? When did you hear me use words, and when did you hear us use our words to express and talk through this problem, right? So that's the first one. The first one is through words. First representation. Second is, you may or may not have heard, and some problems call for it and some don't, pictorial or pictures or graphs, right? So there's actually some problems that you can picture and see. I wish I could put on my screen. I have some problems that I've solved. The problems you see on the internet, the problems you see on the internet, we did last week as well. Those are, you see them pictorially? Yeah. Okay, and then there's another way that we like to see problems, and that's using tables. Tables are just organized ways we organize our work, or so that we can look for patterns and so we can make decisions, right? Tables, we set up tables. And then the last one I want to show you is symbolism. We use symbols. We use symbols to represent stuff. And so first we use words, pictures, tables, and symbols. All right, I'll go over it again. Words, pictures, tables, and symbols. And I want to say to you, or ask you, or challenge you, here's the quiz. Which one of these is the most difficult for young people, I guess anyone, to conceptualize or build connections to? I'm playing my Jeopardy music right now, but it's a hard trick question. Which one of these are most difficult for people to build connections to? Yeah, so the big three, let me put that down. The big four, I said words, Ah, thanks. I'm going to pin it. Thanks for writing the note, Natalie. I'm going to pin it down, okay? Symbolism. So symbolism. Thanks, Doctor. Thanks, Pastor Steve. How you doing, man? Thanks for joining us. So, yeah, so number 4, symbolism. Symbolism is the most difficult representation for people to engage in and around mathematics. Well, let's understand that. Symbols mean that you have to agree to someone's symbols, right? You have to agree to what the symbol looks like, and you all have to agree to what the symbol means. We call it the signifier and what's to be signified. So some people think that the comma is a symbol for the decimal point in Europe and other countries. In here we use the period for a symbol for the decimal point. Symbols require lots of different agreements, or we call that conventions, right? And so what letter? Some people use X's and A's and B's and C's for symbols, and so symbols carry different meaning. Sometimes symbols represent unknown numbers. Sometimes a symbol can represent a range of numbers. Sometimes a symbol can represent just one number and it never changes. So sometimes a symbol can change, sometimes a symbol cannot. Pi, for example. Pi before dinner, that's the name of this program. Pi before dinner. Pi it's a symbol, isn't it? That's used to represent this constant, right? This relationship of a circle's circumference to its diameter, 3.14152958, blah blah blah. And so, one of the reasons it's the most difficult convention to use, and yet it's something that we throw out to our young people every chance we get, and we turn them off in doing mathematics, and it's a crime because it's just not necessary to understand algebra, and so we confuse your ability to do symbols or understand symbols with your ability to understand algebra, and it's just a false concoction. All right, so Emily, so I purposely I want to go back. I purposely went through this problem and did not give you any symbols to use. I actually have another problem that I want to give. I really want to give it. I've got 10 minutes left. I really want to give this next problem. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. All right. So here is a, oopsie daisy. Here's an easy one. All right. Or is it? I want to share it. Here we go. Oops. I am not sharing the right one. Okay, 1 second. Let me share again. Here we go. Sorry, guys. All right. I'm going to share this particular one with you. Got it. So you should see, and I'll make it a little bigger. All right. So I'm asking you to choose real quickly. You have an offer. Here's the offer. There's an offer to save $1 on the first day, and then double the amount you save each consecutive day for the next 30 days. So $1, you get that, right? Or you can take $5,000 per day for the next 31 days. Right off the bat, you have 5 seconds. Which one do you choose? Which would you choose? You have 5 seconds to choose. Which would you choose? Trying to kill us. I'm not. Maybe I get carried away, I know, but I appreciate you guys. A, right? So Natalie says A. A question mark. I'm not answering. A question mark. Natalie says A. Man. Yeah. Yeah. This is one of those problems, huh? This is one of those problems. Yeah. Pastor says A. Donna says A. Okay, pretty easy, huh? Well, let's figure it out. Tell me how much money you would have on the 10th day of this exercise? On the 10th day, how much would you have on the 10th day? How much money would you have on the 10th day of this exercise? Well, first day, we'd have $1. Second day, we'll save $2 more, so we'd have $3, right? The third day, we'll save $4 because we doubled the 2. So we now have 7, right? And the fourth day, you can pretty much try. This is a calculator, if you like. Not so simple now, is it? All right, so I'll see what you come up with. Okay, so chat goes quiet. And Natalie says 612. Well, let's look at the second one. The second one is easy. The second choice is easy, right? You'll have 50,000, right? $5 per day. First day 5. You'll get each day you'll get $5,000, right? So that's 50,000. Is that okay? Does that make sense? So I'm just racing through it now. So you get for $5,000 per day times 10 days. That's what? 50G. Right? And then if you look at, so 1,023. So the first day we're getting 1. We're adding 2 to it the second day, we get 3. We're adding 4 to it the third day, we have 7. We're adding 8 to it, we get 15. We're adding 16 to it, we get 31. Right? Yeah, then we're adding, then we get 63. 63. Then we get 1. Then we add 127, right? Then we get yeah 255. And we get 511. And we get 1023. And 2047. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So on the third day we have 1,023. But you see this is changing. So this again is an algebra problem. There you have 2 different situations. One where there's change happening. So the 10th, if you follow this one through, you get 4,095, right? And then you can keep following it through. You will find that these are 2 different change situations, and it's the key to algebra too as well. In the first scenario, there's change happening, but it's changing on a regular basis. It's what we call constant change, right? It's linear change, step by step by step by step by step. Same step, 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, 5,000. This is similar to the gospel problem that you just did, right? The change was linear. Linear change is quite simple in our books. In fact, it's what young people study quite a bit. And it's just straight line change, right? Linear, lines. And they find slopes and do all sorts of stuff. But this kind of change is different. This kind of change is where it starts off really, the change is so small, and now we're seeing it start to creep up. So even after the 4,000, then it's going to double to 8,000 something. Then it's going to double. So now it's doubling to 8,000 something. Then the next one's going to double to 16,000 something and 32,000. It's no more 5,000 anymore. So even after like 14, 15 days, we're 15, 16, 17 days, we're catching up to that particular $5,000 per day. But this has changed. One model is linear, the other model is non-linear. All right, so I've gone a bit too far of that in the sense of just for my own time's sake. But thank you guys, I appreciate it. Thanks Emily for coming on board. So these are kinds of problems. There's another one. I'll just show you the problem itself. I won't put it up on the board. No, I won't do that. Nope, I'm not going to get caught up. I won't show you the problem. But these problems are important, right? To think about how we can really revolutionize the kinds of experiences that our young people are having in and around algebra. And so I wanted to give you, as an audience, a really quick understanding of what that meant and what it meant to feel and experience algebra, what it meant to do algebra at a very young age. I wanted you to also understand that, what it means to do algebra at a very young age. You can do this, we can all do this because we can all experience patterns and symbols and change and models. We can all do it. In fact, you couldn't even tell me where that problem is best suited, right? I mean, it can go from elementary to middle to high school. There's so much importance to the problem. In fact, if you look at the first choice was all about how the COVID virus spreads in communities. And so hence it talks about flattening curves because it actually looks like a curve, an exponential curve in this case. An exponential curve where the rate is 2. It's doubling it's a doubling rate at 2. The COVID in the United States is spreading probably at a rate of about 1.03. So it's increasing, but it's not increasing the same each day, just a little bit more each day. And so the hope is to get that under 1, right? And so that's how it's relative to the kind of work that we're doing, the kind of things that we're seeing now in and around the COVID experience. I hope this has been helpful to you guys. I do have some things that I think will be even more useful to you. If you go to my website, I've put a couple of new resources on my website for you. I really just want to put them up on the screen here so that you can get a real good taste and a real good look at the kind of support that I want to give you as you're thinking about how to break habits and break how you're experiencing algebra and break how your young person is experiencing algebra. So I'm just going to put these resources up on the site real quick. You know, you can go to LouMatthews.live as a general website, and on that website you'll actually see two things I think you'll find useful, or hopefully you find the whole website useful. But you'll see Pie Before Dinner, and what I do is after each of these episodes, I go ahead and make a podcast. And if you go to LouMatthews.live Pie Before Dinner, you'll actually see a couple of the episodes up from last week and the 2 weeks before that. I'll have last week's up by tomorrow, and this one I'll put a summary of this one up on the podcast as well. So if your friends missed the episode and they missed the replay, please send them to the website. They can look at the podcast and listen to the podcast. And I give a lot more as well on the podcast and in a shorter period of time. Here, I think I'm learning that here it's better to engage you. In the podcast, I can give the information, I guess, a bit more concisely. Also, if you go to the website, you can look at LouMatthews.live. I'm just going to type it in real quickly. If you look at something called free math, the free math is an idea, a principle that I've been working in and around, and that is to bring mathematics freely to my communities, right? Freely to the communities that really need it. So I've always wanted the people who need it the most, they can't get really good stuff. And so I have on that website, free math. I have a few things that I think you're going to find pretty useful. In fact, if I can just open it real quick, I'll show you matthews.live/free math. Because I want you to really take advantage of these opportunities to just get a host of some free resources that I think can benefit you and your loved ones at home. Here we go. I'll just stream it here and show you the website real quick. Yeah. And so if you look at the website, it's you'll see that it has Eureka Parent Math, Common Core Math Intervention. What works? There's a website called What Works here that you can go and see all these programs that you use at home. This website, What Works in Math, actually rates them and reviews them. There's finding a math tutor. Lots of parents ask me about that all the time. So this PBS article talks about what to look for. I have some other ideas about finding math tutors as well. And one day, maybe that's just a show itself. You can join the Facebook group as well. The Facebook group, look for us, Pie Before Dinner Facebook group. It's free to join. And if you see, you can see information about episode 4 and episode 6. Now there are some stuff in episode 6 that I have up here that I did not talk about, and stuff that I did talk about. So if you can see that I talked about Connect 4 and change and big ideas of algebra, but I didn't get to tell you about these websites, mathanywhere.org, and there's a few other underneath here as well that I think are useful. Public Math. And so there's some really good stuff. I'm going to actually put that in the podcast. So don't panic. You'll have that in the podcast. And look, we've gone an hour and 15 minutes, and it's great. I'm trying to get this down to an hour, but we're down from an hour and a half. But I'm just so happy, and I get excited when I engage you guys. Listen, thanks for coming. I appreciate having you. We had some pie before dinner. Go to this Facebook group. Let's get seconds. Let's continue the dialogue. Spread the word, please. Love you. Take care. Be safe. Thank you very much.